important graphical display that we have for summarizing a data set is the box plot. You can think of the box plot as a compact display that's going to provide information about the center, variability, and symmetry or skewness of the data distribution. If we look at this paper, striatal volume predicts level of video game skill acquisition. They were studying a number of factors that affect performance in a complex video game. One factor that they were considering was the practice strategy. So they took 40 college students who all reported playing video games less than 3 hours per week over the past 2 years, and who had never played this particular game, Space Fortress. They were assigned at random to one of two groups. Each person completed 20 2-hour practice sessions. There was a fixed priority group who were told to work on improving their total score at each practice session. Then there was a variable priority group where they were told to focus on a different aspect of the game, such as improving speed score in each practice session. So the investigators were interested in whether that practice strategy was going to make a difference in the outcome of the game. So they measured the improvement in total score from the first practice session to the last. It was important that they looked at the improvement score for these different players because we don't really want to see their final score. We want to see how much they improved from where they started. So we have all of the values for the fixed priority group and the variable priority group. If we created a dot plot for the fixed priority group, we would see this dot plot with a median around 3,600, an upper quartile around 4,000, and a lower quartile a little above 2,500. If we were to draw a box from the lower quartile to the upper quartile, that box is our inner quartile range. We then can add a line at the median, and then we can draw tails going to the lowest value and the highest value. That would be a box plot. Now, we would not also have the dots in our final box plot, but I wanted you to see the connection between making a dot plot and making a box plot. A box plot is just going to represent in a very simple box and whisker graph what your center and variation looks like for your data. So that is the box plot for the fixed priority improvement scores. This box plot has 4 parts: your lower whisker, the lower part of the box, the upper part of the box, and the upper whisker. Each one of those sections represents 25% of the data values that we learned about in section 3.3. So an important thing here with these box plots is they essentially are drawing what's called the 5-number summary. The 5-number summary consists of 5 values: the smallest observation, which is also called the minimum, the lower quartile, which you'll often see Q1, that means the lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile, which is often referred to as Q3, and then the largest observation, which is the maximum. So to create a box plot, you just get those 5 numbers in the 5-number summary. You draw an axis and an appropriate scale that's going to contain all of those values. And then you start by drawing a box from the lower quartile to the upper quartile. You simply add a line segment at the median, and then draw 2 line segments, the whiskers, down to the smallest observation and up to the largest observation. These are really easy to produce using a computer, but they're also really easy to produce if you have the 5-number summary. So here, let's look at the variable priority practice strategy group. Here are their scores. We can get the median by looking at the middle 2 numbers, 4,800 and 5,500. Since this was an even number of observations, we have to add these together, divide by 2 to get our median. Then we can separate the lower half of the data and get the lower quartile, Q1, 3,550, and then the upper quartile is obtained by getting the median of this upper half, which is 6,150. So the 5 numbers in our 5-number summary would be the minimum, which is 1,200, the lower quartile, 3,550, the median, 5,150, the upper quartile, 6,150, and the maximum, 7,700. So I could give you the 5-number summary and ask you to draw a box plot, or you could have the raw data and could use the computer to draw this. If you had the 5-number summary, you would start by drawing the box from the lower quartile to the upper quartile. Then add a vertical line there at the median, And then finally, add your whiskers that go from the lower quartile down to the minimum and from the upper quartile up to the maximum. What's helpful with box plots is we can very easily stack them so that we can have a comparison or a comparative box plot. And this simply means that you have 2 or more box plots drawn using the same numerical scale. In StatCrunch, they'll usually be drawn vertically next to each other unless you tell them to draw horizontally. Personally, I like looking at the horizontal scale because I'm more used to seeing a number line drawn horizontally. But sometimes for space reasons, you would actually want to draw these vertically. Either way, you can make nice comparisons. You can see easily that there is a significant difference in the medians here, but as far as the range of scores, both groups had a pretty similar score range. Certainly, the variable priority group overall seems to have some higher scores, but we see with a decent amount of overlap, we can observe that looking just at these comparative box plots. We also can see that they are relatively symmetric. If you take the median and you mirror that, you'll see whether or not it's symmetric or skewed. These aren't perfectly symmetric, but they're not containing an obvious amount of skew.